Studio Ghibli. Nothing quite gives that seal of quality on animation quite like that Studio Ghibli logo. And yes, I'm going to be pronouncing it as Ghibli the whole time.
Studio Ghibli.
I've heard it both ways.
I think it's funner to call it Ghibli, so get used to that.
I feel like I'm saying it. You know what? It doesn't matter.
Now to set the ground rules of what do not count. I'm only counting the feature-length Studio Ghibli ones. I'm not going to be counting Castle of Cagliostro, despite that being directed by Miyazaki. Likewise, Future Boy Conan and other Miyazaki films before the official formation of Studio Ghibli will not be counted. So, with those out of the way, let's go to the first and the worst one. 25. Earwig and the Witch. In a post-Pixar world where Disney has stopped doing traditional animation, DreamWorks has stopped doing 2D animation, Aardman Animation had embraced CGI, even the last Lupin the Third and Dragon Ball movie were 3D animated. But not you, Studio Ghibli. You're the last bastion of traditional 2D... No! Yes, the first thing you're going to notice about this film is the animation. And computer animation can be beautiful. I have nothing against 3D animated films. But this is not beautiful animation. It's because of this film I can't say the phrase, like all Studio Ghibli films, this is beautifully animated. Going beyond how it looks, how is the story? Likewise not good.
You're ugly inside and out!
And for a movie focused so much on music, the music isn't very good. What else does this movie mess up on? How about the characters? The main character's a brat, and the caretakers do nothing to endear themselves to the audience, and nothing to make them compelling going forward. And just when you think the movie's getting started, it just abruptly ends. It's like at this point in the story, they looked back at what they had made and realized that it was no good and just decided to pull the plug on it entirely. As much as I'd love to have the hot take about this being misunderstood, I instead echo the sentiment of everyone else. Yes, this is Ghibli's worst film.
Be an independent thinker.
24. Ocean Waves. Yeah, these are the two films that are always at the bottom of these lists, and for good reason. Similar to DreamWorks, you can tell the projects that Studio Ghibli cares about, and the ones that they don't. Case in point, this one doesn't even have an English dub. Now, there are plenty of great films that don't have an English dub, but it just goes to show how little they care about this film. Ocean Waves is a slice-of-life anime. I say that because nothing really exciting happens, just like real life. And it centers around I'm going to call it a romance, just to give any sort of justification of what's going on here. This movie is a representation of a high school reunion where you run into someone you haven't seen in a long time that you kind of knew, and you strike up a conversation, but you really don't have much to say to each other. And likewise, I don't have much more to say about this film. There's not much to it, and what's there isn't that good. 23. My Neighbors the Yamadas. If you're watching something like the Peanuts movie or the Garfield movie,
because you're crazy,
and think to yourself, I wish this was more faithful to the original comic strip, then My Neighbors the Yamadas might be the film for you. It is the most faithful to a comic strip adaptation I have ever seen. Much like a newspaper comic strip, do people still know what a newspaper comic strip is? You could really watch the film in any order. It's not like one story builds up to the next. It's just a series of unrelated, somewhat comedic stories. Is just a bunch of comic strips put together and animated.
Just a bunch of stuff that happened.
It works better as a series of shorts as it does a feature-length film. And then once they reach a feature-length runtime, the movie just ends. 22. Only Yesterday. Wait a second, this is supposed to be one of the good ones. This might be where I lose a lot of people for this list, but I cannot stand this film. The movie is about a 26-year-old woman taking a vacation in the countryside while reminiscing about her childhood in the 5th grade. This movie goes on for 2 hours, and you feel every second of it. There's no reason why the story needed to go on for that long. It's kind of like you're hearing an old person ramble off about their childhood. Maybe magical to them, but is meaningless to you. Some of the stories include the first time she had a pineapple, having trouble with fractions, schoolgirls gossiping about crushes, going to a bathhouse.
Isn't the fun almost too much to take?
And then there are other stories where you wish she would give less information. There's an extended flashback sequence spent on her first learning about women's periods, when another girl got her first period, and so on and so forth. It is awkward, and the audience patiently waits for them to stop talking about it. Likewise, a painful to watch scene about her father striking her for leaving the house without her shoes on. There's no follow-up on that story. Meanwhile, when we cut to present day 1982, she isn't doing anything interesting at that time either. My two main takeaways from Only Yesterday is that it is uninteresting and uncomfortable. Also, how do you name your movie Only Yesterday and not include the Carpenter song? Shame on you. 21. Tales from Earthsea. Of all the Ghibli films, this one might frustrate me the most because it had such a cool premise and I wanted to love this film. It's got dragons, it's got wizards, it has James Bond voicing Sparrowhawk. But it turned out to be as underwhelming as that last time I saw a film with dragons that had James Bond in it.
Hello.
This movie has one of the coolest intros of all time. It immediately hooked me and I was like, oh right, where's this gonna go? And it goes nowhere. It becomes apparent that this film wasn't just adapting a book in a franchise, it was trying to adapt a whole franchise into one movie. And our main character is very dull. He's a boy of two halves. He has the evil side and he has the disinterested side. And you think you're building up to this big, grand, epic battle. The movie begins with dragons fighting and how does it end? Well, just underwhelming.
Oh, come on! People like an ending.
20. The Red Turtle. The Red Turtle is an 81-minute film with no dialogue about a man trapped on a desert island. Hearing that premise made me worry. I can work with a film without dialogue. Films like Shaun the Sheep, Robot Dreams, Flow are able to stay engaging without having their characters speak. It's actually the island location. Typically I don't care for desert island movies. There's only so much you can do with the setting. I've seen so many deserted island films and I find them so dull that there is some Pavlovian effect in me that when I see so much sand, it just puts me to sleep.
Sand and more sand. So much sand, you really would.
What can I say? I don't like sand. It's coarse, it's rough, and it gets everywhere. Okay, but putting my bias against island movies aside, how does this movie hold up? The movie takes a bizarre turn that I'm not going to spoil here because I thought that the reaction to not knowing was the best part of this movie. And it completely changes from that point, and you're wondering, okay, what is happening here? Not my kind of movie, but if I was stuck on a desert island and this is the only film I had, I'd probably watch it. 19. Ponyo. This was actually the first Studio Ghibli film I watched when it was new, and I may have went in with the wrong mindset. I went in because I was like, wow, this has Matt Damon, Liam Neeson, Tina Fey, and Hannah Montana's younger sister in it, and I wasn't ready for the loose story structure that Studio Ghibli so often uses. This is more of a low-key, slice of life, just have a good time type movie. Unfortunately, I find it a little hard to relax when there's a giant tsunami and the moon is crashing into the earth, and it kind of makes me nervous. But no, everybody is just super chill about this tsunami, and am I supposed to root for this romance? They kind of put a lot on this kid, being like, okay, no pressure here, but are you gonna love this girl that you just met 2 days ago for the rest of your life? And I don't even think it's meant to be a romantic thing because, you know, they're so young.
It's about two naked 8-year-olds who are married.
But even if it's like, oh yeah, she's gonna be your sister now, kind of a big commitment, and I don't think the mom's qualified to take care of one kid, let alone two. And for the literal fish out of water situation that Ponyo finds herself in, the world on land is already strange enough, and just nobody quite acts right in this film. Given the situations they are given to, the reactions they are given just don't add up. Everybody just seems okay with letting her wander around and figure out what breastfeeding is, that it makes the fish out of water elements not mesh together. 18. Howl's Moving Castle. Those who saw my Best Animated Picture nominees video know that I have a particular bone to pick with this film, but since I'd already ranted about it, I figured this time around I would give a kinder, gentler review. And then because Google is always listening, I got a Google Newsfeed article about how Howl's Moving Castle is the greatest animated film of all time. Underrated fantasy anime.
Oh, shut up!
And it inspired me to just hop back on that hate train and take it right back to Howl's Moving Castle. The romance between Howl and Sophie doesn't make sense to me.
Of course not, you're a robot.
The movie begins and we set up a conflict and a goal for our main character. Sophie is cursed to be old. Her goal is to remove the curse. Complication: she can't tell anyone about the curse. Okay, these arbitrary magic rules, but fair enough. So she goes to Howl because he knows magic and perhaps he can undo the curse. I remember watching it and hearing at this point a little conversation that's going on in the background and saying out loud, wouldn't it be something if that random bit of conversation turned out to be a real important plot detail? Wouldn't that just be silly to put something so important in the background of the story? And then Sophie just gets distracted from her goal.
Squirrel!
The entire time I'm like, okay, get yourself young again. Undo the curse. And she just stops caring. She starts caring more about cleaning up the house. And I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? People have complimented that Sophie is a complex character. And where some see complex, I see her as fickle and indecisive. What do you want, Sophie? Make up your mind. And then the last 20 minutes just throws everything at the wall, hastily wraps things together in a package. And it's like, well, that resolved both the romance and it stopped the war. What you did right there, that ended the war. Everything is good now. Okay. But as for the positives of Howl's Moving Castle, read somebody else's review. There's plenty out there that'll tell you how great it is. On to the next one. 17. The Boy and the Heron. I understand how this film is almost semi-autobiographical about Miyazaki, and how the meta-narrative of it synchronizes with Miyazaki's experience as an animator and creator. But I set those points aside and focus on, does this plot work for the characters and for the story? And really, this story did not mesh together. There's a point where the kid smashes his head with a rock. We don't see what led to this decision. Kid, if you want to get out of school, just pretend like you're sick, like a normal person. And the rules of the world that they set up is so nonsensical that the setup of a Lego tower somehow initiates a self-destruct sequence. And the story, particularly towards the end, feels like there's too much going on. It gets very muddled. In the context of the story, the characters' motivations were unclear, the decisions they made didn't make sense, and the fantasy world they set up has such an ambiguous set of rules that I don't understand the consequences for the actions that they take.
What are the rules? What are the rules?
16. When Marnie was there. My two main problems with this one is that the story feels a bit aimless. The second being the character of Anna herself. She's self-loathing, she's negative, she's critical, and just overall mean. This would be okay if I saw some character growth from her, but she ends the movie in more or less the same place that she began it. I don't find it a very compelling hook to be like, ooh, isn't that house spooky? Not really. And then Marnie comes into the picture. I like to picture this conversation that went on with the director, where somebody says, hey, you know these scenes where our main characters with Marnie and they're dancing, they're taking these moonlit boat rides. Do you get some sort of romantic vibe from them? And the director's like, oh no, I wasn't trying to go for romantic. I was just trying to be like their best buddies, you know? Oh, I know how to fix this problem. What if we make the main character a girl? We'll make it Anna and Marnie. Nobody's gonna get romantic vibes that way.
Oh, honey.
And hey, while I'm at it, let's switch out this old windmill from the book to a silo, because a silo's easier to draw. I'm a great director. Absolutely no subtext to be read into this at all. They're just two best buds.
No frou-frou symbolism.
15. From Up on Poppy Hill. I think Goro Miyazaki can be given a bad rep. Yes, he made that thing, but this is my favorite of his work. A work that apparently his father was not a big fan of. I really like this setting, I like these characters, and I really like the music. This is a fine, really chill, relaxing movie. This one does a great job capturing the spirit of high school. Hey man, do you dare me to jump off this building? Well, okay, if you dare me to, I'm gonna do it. Woo! But similar to When Marnie Was There, there's this strange romantic element to it that is a bit distracting.
But trust me, it is utterly delicious. And taboo.
Other than that taboo elephant in the room, I think that this one's a lot of fun. 14. Pom Poko. The most straightforward comedy of all of Studio Ghibli's collection, Pom Poko is set up as a mockumentary-style film about the lives of Tanuki. I just love the deadpan way in which Brain explains that the Tanuki got lazy and stopped fighting. It's the fact that he's presenting it like this is a serious nature documentary, and such ridiculous stuff is going on.
That's the joke.
Along with the comedy, it still has Takahata's trademark environmental messaging to it. And likewise, there are some very sweet romances that happen in this. As is typical with the comedy genre, how funny you think it is going to be subjective. There are some cultural differences, and some people may find some of the comedic parts to be more awkward than others, a bit all over the place, but overall, an entertaining and informative mockumentary. 13. The Cat Returns. Another one of Studio Ghibli's more comedic adventures, Cat Returns is a good, light-hearted adventure, completely ignoring the terror that would be the act of being captured by cats and slowly being transformed into a cat. The English dub has Anne Hathaway and Carrie Elways as the two main leads. Finally, Princess Diaries and Princess Bride combined into one film. Appropriate because that would match the tone well of this film. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Tim Curry voices the Cat King.
That's me, babe.
One of Ghibli's shortest films, this movie would be an excellent introduction for little kids to the world of Studio Ghibli. Just a fun, light-hearted comedic adventure about a girl who kind of agrees to marry a cat.
There's no way I can marry a cat.
The prince is so cool.
He's cool?
Mm-hmm.
The only somewhat sequel in Studio Ghibli's entire catalog, this film is criminally overlooked. We need more Cat King merchandise. It's just a good fun story with some endearing characters and a simple message. There's nothing quite like a fantasy film for some good escapism fun. Just forget about any of the real world problems going on. 12. Spirited Away.
You lie! You lie!
The film that won Miyazaki his very first Oscar, seen as his undisputed masterpiece, and in general one of the greatest films of all time, I liked, but I don't love it.
Something's wrong with you.
I just don't like it as much as the other films that are ranked higher on this list. I can sum a lot of it up by saying I don't like Alice in Wonderland, and in many regards this is Miyazaki's version of Alice in Wonderland. If there's a mystery in a movie, I like to play along and try and solve it. But this film intentionally does not let me do that. There's a mystery of who is this character, and I'm playing along at home trying to figure out who could this be. And then once revealed who he is, I'm like, there's no way I could have guessed that. You did not give me the clues I needed to figure that out. And I know this film is not one of those stories. I did, however, figure out the puzzle at the end with the pigs. At that point, I had gotten used to the world's logic, and I was able to figure out, okay, this is the type of curveball they'd throw at us. In a similar way to Howl's Moving Castle, when a movie sets up a conflict and a goal for a character to work towards, I want to see them make progress towards accomplishing that goal. And so often in these films, the characters find themselves distracted by various side quests. It seems like a lot of problems in this film can be solved by vomiting. Don't get me wrong, Spirited Away has outstanding animation, wonderful music, and a compelling main character. But that can be said for the rest of the films on this list as well.
Don't be stupid.
11. The Tale of Princess Kaguya. A lot of people refer to animating in the Studio Ghibli style as if it's a monolith, and all Studio Ghibli movies look the same. But as you can see from Neighbors Yamada's Tale of Princess Kaguya, that is not the case. With the exception of one, all of them still look great, but that doesn't mean that they all look the same. The Tale of Princess Kaguya has a real fairy tale feel to it, along with a mysticism and folklore that feels authentically Japanese, but at the same time very much its own thing. Through the timeline of the movie, you're able to see Kaguya grow and develop as a character. You may look at the manner in which she changes her mind so often and see her as being a fickle, inconsistent character, but because the movie takes the time to show the character grow and progress, we're able to understand what led to these changes. It's those points in between the dots that are also important to see. And then they threw out an ending that really made me think. It was an ending that I didn't quite know what to make of it. I have fun discussing with other people that saw the film and hearing what they thought about it.
Well, I guess it's a happy ending.
Yeah, but it's not happy enough.
If you have the time, this makes a great double feature with Kubo and the Two Strings, and then maybe play some Pocky and Rocky. It's an ending that leaves me saying,
that's rough, buddy.
10. The Wind Rises. The Wind Rises follows the man who revolutionized the airplanes and designed the airplanes that would then be used for the Pearl Harbor attack. In a similar way to what Christopher Nolan did for Oppenheimer, the focus of the film isn't the war, but instead the passion this man has for his scientific discovery. The centerpiece may have been his love for planes, but what really sold me in the film was his love for Naoko. For those who think that I'm too cold and cynical after not understanding Sophie and Hal's romance, this is the Studio Ghibli romance that I can get behind. Although there was one scene that bothered me. There's a part where Naoko is wanting to hold his hand, and she asks, hey, can you put out that cigarette? I'm trying to get to sleep here. And it would be such an easy thing to put out the cigarette, but instead it's like, no, I'm kind of smoking it. I paid good money for this cigarette. Just as accurate to Miyazaki.
Don't smoke.
But beyond that scene, I really liked the romance between these two. Outside of the romance, the passion that he has for making his planes is contagious. You really want him to have his dreams come true. He's not concerned about what the planes are being used for. He's just trying to make a better plane for the sake of engineering, for the sake of the challenge. This film also sports a large cast of supporting characters that do a great job. At times the film may feel a bit on the long side, but the passion that he has for his engineering and the romance he has makes it still compelling to watch from beginning to end. I give it a high recommendation. 9. The Secret World of Arrietty. Now this is where I'm going to lose a lot of people, ranking this film this high on the list, but I think that this is Studio Ghibli's most overlooked film.
We used to beat people up for saying things like that!
This one won me over with its likable main character and its overall charm. Based off the book The Borrowers, Arrietty is a 4-inch tall girl that lives in a normal-sized world. Together with her parents, she must avoid being seen by the normal-sized people and avoid all the troubles that come with being only 4 inches tall. What's surprising with this film is how often it chooses to subvert the normal storytelling tropes. There's a point where Arrietty is seen by a normal-sized boy, and I thought, okay, she's going to keep this a secret from her parents, and that will lead to some third act drama. I know how this goes. But then the movie takes a swerve and has her tell her father what happened. Okay, and now is the father going to be like, oh, you're shunned from this family, how dare you? And it's like, no, just open and honest communication. What? Movie, do you know how this goes? And eventually they come to a decision about what to do, and I thought, oh, and Arrietty's going to rebel against the parents and say, no, you can't make me. And she's like, okay, parents, I understand that you want the best for me. Although I don't like the decision, I will be a good, obedient daughter. What's going on here? Arrietty strikes the perfect balance of being a flawed character, but at the same time having so many positive attributes that they make for an excellent role model. Yes, the character is small and would easily lose in a fight to any one of these characters, but she has a courage and a sweetness that makes her an easy character to root for. As usual, it has wonderful animation, stellar music, that combined with its likable main character and its subversion of common storytelling tropes, this one is Studio Ghibli's most overlooked movie. 8. Porco Rosso. Porco Rosso strikes a good balance between Studio Ghibli's typical slice-of-life, low-conflict films, but still interspliced with a good amount of sky pirates, dogfights, fistfights, and general action to keep things engaging. It has action in it, but don't be expecting a non-stop action film. The movie takes its time to let a moment sink in and let us get to know the characters. Also, don't go in expecting the fact that he's a pig will play a big part in the film. At this point in Porco Rosso's life, he's more or less made peace with the fact that he's a fat little pig, as do the people around him. There's never a scene where somebody's like, ah, you're a pig man.
You frighten me! Your visage is so horrible!
No, everybody seems very much okay with it. As naturally cool as Porco Rosso is, the one that stole the show was Fio Piccolo. Piccolo, who knew you'd have such a cool daughter? She's an inspiration for all ladies wanting to get into the STEM fields. In the long list of Studio Ghibli's well-written female characters, Fio Piccolo deserves to be right there in the conversation with the rest of them. She's kind, she's outgoing, she's ambitious, and she just loves doing what she does. She's a mechanic and she is proud of it.
She's so cool!
One strange thing I always notice about this film, the antagonist is often referred to by his first and last name, Donald Curtis. And Donald Curtis talks about how he wants to be in films and he's wanting to become a big star. Mentioned so often I had to look it up, was Donald Curtis a real guy? And sure enough, there was a Donald Curtis who was a pilot during World War II. Why did they make this character an actual guy? How's that for an accomplishment? You get to be the villain in a Studio Ghibli film. 7. Grave of Fireflies. There are some films that you watch for some good escapism fun, just to have a good time, forget about your problems, and watch some characters go on an adventure and learn a lesson. Grave of Fireflies is not one of those films. Grave of Fireflies is a harsh reminder of how terrible the world can be. When talking about sad or depressing animated films, Grave of Fireflies is often very high on the list. And true to its reputation, this one lets you know at the very beginning, hey, this is going to be a sad film, this is going to be a real downer of a film, so get yourself emotionally ready for that. It's one of those vegetable movies. You don't watch it because it's fun, but you watch it because you know it's good for you. You realize it's important to watch something like this so that you can learn from past mistakes and prevent things like this from happening again. You just watch these two characters trying to make the best of a bad situation and know that inevitably this isn't going to work out. This film is heartbreaking to watch. It is a tearjerker. This is a film that is really good at what it does, but because of that it also makes it a really hard one to watch. There's just scene after scene that are pulling on your emotional heartstrings and can be exhausting. The tear well runs dry at a certain point. And so I'll just take this moment to recommend two other films that scratch this same itch, that don't get the same recognition that Grave of Fireflies gets. One being Barefoot Gen, and the other being In This Corner of the World. It is the I Can't Believe Mankind Can Do Something This Terrible trilogy. If you watched Grave of Fireflies and thought, that's the sort of sad film that I need more of in my life, enjoy! Yeah, let's go on to the next one. 6. My Neighbor Totoro. On the flip side, if you want a double feature to rinse out the feeling of depression after watching Grave of Fireflies, My Neighbor Totoro might be the better film to pick. Totoro has gone on to become the mascot of Studio Ghibli, a silhouette synonymous with the studio, and an icon in animation. Knowing the big impact that this movie made, I was surprised what little happens in the film. It's an accurate title in that it's not My Friend Totoro or My Adventures with Totoro, it's just My Neighbor Totoro, magical creature that happens to be next door. The actual actual story of the film really isn't all that important. It is more the vibes and the feelings you're getting through the film. The movie is like taking the feeling of playing outside in the summertime as a kid. It has the same feeling of a Calvin and Hobbes comic strip. It's a movie that feels like it represents childhood. Not my childhood, because there were far more video games involved in my childhood. It represents a childhood of imagination and wonder that for a moment all of us can recognize and latch on to. If you're watching it wondering what was all the fuss about and how did this become such a big thing, the fact that it focuses on all the little things and manages to make them magical again is what this movie does so well. 5. Whisper of the Heart. When I think slice of life anime film, Whisper of the Heart is the gold standard.
No, it's not. It's a mess. The storyline goes all over the place. All the characters' dialogue sounds corny.
It is one that I've really come around on over the years. Initially when I saw it, I found it hard to believe that somebody would like reading but not like studying. Aren't those the same thing?
They're two different things. That's pretty obvious.
As human beings, it's our nature to compare things. After all, this whole list is me comparing different Studio Ghibli films to each other. And the way Shizuku compares herself to Senji, despite them being in two completely different fields of interest, is so natural. She sees him as having his whole life together and being so good at violin making, and she's envious that, why doesn't she have her life together so much? And why doesn't she have such a great skill like he has for making violins?
No, he's so much better than me.
And so she gravitates towards storytelling, and she wants to tell a great story. And she tries so hard, she commits herself to writing this story. And unlike so many modern films, just because she has a passion for it, that doesn't mean that she has a natural gift for it. She has to work at it, she has to put in the effort, and all that effort comes with a sacrifice. She has to have a conversation with her parents about putting off her education and focusing on this passion project of hers. And the parents, once they put out their cigarette,
Honey, please.
Oh, sorry. I'll put it out.
have a real honest and open communication about the matter. So they agree, and she's able to put all her work into this project with no excuses. I found it such a refreshing and important theme for kids of all ages to understand the importance of putting in that work. And sometimes you're not going to be good at it right away, and that's okay. It's fitting that maybe the biggest reputation this film has is being the origin of the lo-fi studying girl, because this movie is very much like a training montage movie, but instead of working out to become the champ, she's studying to become a better writer. On a side note, this has my favorite cover of Country Roads. Even if slice of life anime and coming of age stories don't sound like your typical movie, give this one a watch and it may just win you over.
There's no conflict in this movie.
4. Princess Mononoke. Shifting gears from a wholesome slice of life anime, we got Studio Ghibli's bloodiest film. One of Roger Ebert's top 10 favorite films, this movie has all the technical aspects down that you've come to expect. Animation, music, directing are all top notch. And this one has a great ensemble cast of characters, none of them completely villainized, and none of them completely in the right. Ashitaka strikes a good balance as a neutral third party in this situation. He's kind of like an old western hero. He blows into town, sees these two sides warring with each other. He's trying to establish peace for both sides. This movie does a great job showing both sides of the argument. The people of Irontown aren't portrayed as Captain Planet villains because they industrialized the area. On the other hand, nature's just doing its thing and fighting back against them. In typical Miyazaki style, this is definitely a pro-environmental movie, but it's one that recognizes the complexities of the issues. Regardless of the themes of environment, nature, deities, if you just wanted to watch this film as a cool action film, it has got you covered. Battles, the war, and the blood, all top-notch stuff. What the critic said is correct. This is an awesome film.
I love this film. My heart leapt up when I watched this film.
3. Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind. Yes, I know that this one was technically made before Studio Ghibli. I know. This one and Princess Mononoke have often been compared to each other. Both of them, written and directed by Miyazaki, have strong female characters, big epic battles, and themes of nature versus industrialization. But Nausicaä gets the edge in this race. Being 16 minutes shorter than Mononoke, Nausicaä has tighter storytelling and moves at a quicker pace than Mononoke. Nausicaä is also a more likable character than San. She's a great leader who always maintains her cool under pressure, and she is not afraid to throw down when she needs to. Think Joan of Arc meets Mulan energy. I also love the animation in this movie. With all the polish that computer animation can add to a film, it can't duplicate that grit and grime of 80s animation. I also love the music, as this discotheque Sega Genesis feel to it. Nothing will get me into a story quite like tricking my brain into thinking that I'm playing a video game and I gotta make it through this level before the base self-destructs. And I must remark that this was Miyazaki's first big project that he could really call his own, and I just love that he held held absolutely no punches. When you think of a director's first work, typically it is something smaller in scale, something that's low risk and won't cost the company too much money. But not Miyazaki. For his first film, he was like, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to get another film. I am going to throw all my heart, all my energy into this film. You can feel the energy of these passion projects, and I love it for it. 2. Chi-Chi's Delivery Service. This movie is adorable. If ever there was a movie world I'd want to live in, it's this movie right here. This movie is like 100 minutes of hanging out with just the nicest people, listening to the chillest music, and living in the town with the best scenery. At the center of it is Chi-Chi and her very best friend, Gigi.
And I'm Kiki, ma'am, and Gigi here is my very best friend.
The most likable pair of protagonists. This is certainly a character-first story. But as far as the story goes, I'm a capitalist American, and I love stories about people starting a small business. It's an underdog story, but for the exchange of goods and services. I want to see your delivery service do well, and I also want to see Osano's Bakery do well. This is the movie I watch to cheer me up when I'm feeling down. Appropriate, considering that's also part of Chi-Chi's internal struggle, is cheering up. We can all relate to being in a slump of some kind. What happens when something you used to do for fun becomes a profession? Sometimes when you're feeling down, don't feel bad to take some time for yourself. And sometimes what you need is an unexpected kind gesture from a friend. You're never quite sure how far that's going to go. I challenge us all to be that friend. Be the person that uplifts people. Give somebody a thank you today. You never know how much that will help somebody. If you haven't seen Chi-Chi's Delivery Service before, do yourself a favor and give it a watch. It is one of the best feel-good movies of all time. 1.
There is a castle in the sky. I like to watch it frequently. Aren't any flaws for me to see? Not in this castle in the sky.
Castle in the Sky. Of all Studio Ghibli films, this one most closely follows the traditional 3-act story structure. I hear some people bring that up like it's a bad thing. Like because the film has a compelling narrative, it is somehow less of an artistic film. To that I say, it can be two things.
It can be two things.
The film can have an exciting story, compelling characters, and a deeper message. And that's what's so great about this film. This would easily be the film I would recommend to people who are trying to get into anime.
What's an anime?
We have much to discuss.
There is nothing pretentious about this film. People of any age can watch the action and follow the story of good versus evil. It has the best villain of all these films. Not a misunderstood antagonist, just a villain. He's one that knows when to play along with others, but ultimately always has his best interest in mind. And he knows exactly when to betray his group. And talked about a fun group of characters. You have Shita and Patsu, whose friendship is the anchor of the story. Then you have the Sky Pirates, who are after riches.
The Sky Pirates rule, actually!
Then you have the Army, which is after Laputa, and you have Musta, who has his own sinister plans. All of these characters come together in an exciting finale. Oh, and let's not forget the giant robots. It has the energy of a Saturday morning cartoon, but still has the deeper character moments and themes of environment that you come to expect from Miyazaki. This has over a 2-hour runtime, and it absolutely justifies its length. It feels like a grand epic. It goes from one action piece to another, while still giving us enough time to get to know the characters. From one of cinema's best intros to one of its most thrilling finales, all wrapped in spectacular animation and music, Castle in the Sky is my favorite Studio Ghibli film. Special thanks to Kazumi Evans for doing the singing in this video. What's your favorite Studio Ghibli film?
Mine was Totoro. I watched it frequently growing up. I just think it's a masterpiece.
Anyway, that's my list. I had a ton of fun rewatching through these films, and even while I was editing through the clips, I just wanted to sit down and watch them all over again. Let me know your thoughts on the comments below. What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? Which film did I get completely wrong? And which one do you completely agree with me on?